to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest of all.
Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one.
Hello, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast. I have a very special guest today, friend of the show, Ryan Talbot, who covers the Buffalo Bills for Syracuse.com and NewYorkUpstate.com. NewYorkUpstate.com. He's also the co-host of the Shout Buffalo Bills podcast. And you can also follow him on Twitter, X, at Ryan Talbot Bills. Ryan, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Excited to talk Bills, Dolphins, AFC East, you name it.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about here, and we're going to start off with the Bills first. But before I do, a shout out to the sponsor of today's show, Caneswear. For all of your Miami Dolphins needs and apparel, go to caneswear.com. All right, Bills are coming off another season where they were knocking on the door of the Super Bowl, real close, only to see Pat Mahomes kill their dreams. So I guess my first question is, where are Bills fans these days with Sean McDermott? Are they happy with him? Is he still someone they have a lot of faith in? Are they getting a little frustrated because he can't take them to that next level? Where's the fan base when it comes to the head coach?
Yeah, I mean, just like any other fan base, there's going to be some fans that are ready to kind of move on from him because of the fact they can't get over that hump. But I think the majority of the fan base realizes how good they have it right now after that 17-year playoff drought. And I get it. The Super Bowl is the target for every team in the NFL. It's what the Bills are trying to achieve, and they've just fallen short. But McDermott has done such a good job in the regular season and getting to that point where you just kind of have to feel like they should be getting closer and closer to kind of busting down that door. And this past year against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, they had the ball with a few minutes left, and Allen wasn't able to move it. He made a miraculous throw to Dalton Kincaid that would have been difficult. Kincaid should have hauled that in to keep the game alive. So, there's some blame to go around when it comes to this team, but it's been a lot on the defense more than the offense in these pivotal games. And I do think McDermott's done a good job this offseason in addressing that, both in free agency, but especially in the draft. So I think, going back to the original question, the fan base, some are losing a little bit of patience, but others know that it's not easy to win the division year in, year out like the Bills have done, double digits every year in terms of their win total, and knowing that they are so close.
Yeah, and I was looking at the roster. It looks like they're going to return something like 19 or 20 starters from last year's team. This offseason, what do you think was their sort of weak area heading into the offseason, and have they done enough to address it?
That's a great question. I think going into the offseason, I would have said cornerback. Just the fact that they were already moving on from some players. Russell Douglas is still out there in free agency. He was their cornerback, 2 opposite Christian Benford. Some of the depth players they moved on from. They traded Kyrie Elam to the Dallas Cowboys. So you looked at it going into free agency and said, okay, corner is a position the Bills need to address. Maybe they're going to use some of that free agent money on the position. They really did not break the bank in free agency on corner. They brought back 2 familiar faces in Dane Jackson and Trey White, which for depth purposes and depth purposes only, I don't hate that. They know the system. They're good fits in the system. Jackson's never out of place. Trey White's a few years removed now from his last serious injury. You want to see if he has anything left in the tank. But you still didn't address the starting job opposite Benford until the draft, and you take Max Hairston in round 1. Very high on Hairston in terms of his skill set, in terms of the speed factor. He wasn't necessarily a player that I looked at as the perfect fit for McDermott and the Bills. They love corners that can tackle. He was a little iffy in terms of being a tackler. He's a little bit smaller in size, but he brings something different to this team. But they're going to have to count on him to really step up. They bring in Dorian Strong a few rounds later. I think he's a great fit schematically for what the Bills do. So I feel like they addressed it pretty well. The other position I would say is linebacker. I don't feel like, I love the depth that they have there. The 1-2 punch of Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard, excellent. Milano, though, has been a little bit banged up in recent years. He reworked his deal this past offseason, so this is the final year of his contract. They have Dorian Williams, who flies around the field, makes some plays when he's called upon. But now you're going to be asking Joe Andreessen, who was not even a UDFA 1 year ago. He had to come to Bill's rookie minicamp to earn a contract, and then he makes the 53-man roster. They're going to ask him to really step up in terms of depth purposes. Same with second-year player Eddie Ulofoshio. So there's a lot of question marks there in my mind still at the linebacker position, and it's just something they didn't address in the draft.
Yeah, and you mentioned Rasul real quick there, the cornerback who's still unsigned. He has been linked to Miami. So let me
Yes.
ask you about Rasul Douglas. What did you see from him last year? I was looking at some numbers. It sounds like, he's a guy who's there every week. He plays pretty much every game. Passer rating against wasn't the best. I think it was like 123.4 or something like that.
Right.
What are your thoughts on him and how he played last season?
I thought he fell off quite a bit, to be quite honest. The Bills acquired him the year before that at the trade deadline, and he came in and he ended up leading the team in interceptions from, the entire year, but he came over halfway in the year. So it showed you he was making plays on the ball. He was passes defense, making, good reads. And it was more instincts than anything. He was the first to admit that first season he was really relying on the safety duo that the Bills had at that time to tell him where to be and what position to be in. So I thought with a full off season, knowing more about the system, getting more prepared for this defense, he was going to look really, really good. But he seemed to step slow. He didn't have any interceptions last season, struggled to make breaks on balls, even to have the passes defense, gave up a lot of receptions when all was said and done. And it just wasn't the type of season that I was envisioning. Now, there is some interest in him from Miami, a few other teams across the league, and maybe he finds a system or a scheme that he's a better fit in. But I definitely think that Father Time is starting to catch up a little bit with Rasul Douglas.
Yeah, I know he also visited with Seattle as well, but
Mhm.
he didn't. So he spent time with Miami and then he went to Seattle. He didn't sign with either team. So I guess we'll wait and see here, which I'm sure from his perspective, he's been around the league for a while. And for him, it's probably no rush to be in training camp their first week. So he might just wait for the best deal in August where he can just come in midway through and sign with the team. One position area you didn't mention was wide receiver. And I look at the Bills wide receivers. Look, when you have Josh Allen, obviously he's so great. He will elevate all the people around him and their play. But that wide receiver group, I still think has some question marks.
Sure.
Do you think the wide receiver group is at a level where they can, beat the Chiefs and compete for a Super Bowl? Because to me, it's not a bad group, but it's also not that inspiring either, I guess is a nice way to say it.
Yeah, it's not a flashy group by any
No.
means. And I guess the reason I didn't mention them is the whole everyone eats mentality. And you saw how it worked last season. And last year, it wasn't the greatest group either. I mean, Mac Hollins has a career year here in Buffalo, essentially, minus 1 year he had with the Raiders. But one of his best seasons of his career, and he goes off and gets a nice little payday from New England because of the role that he had. Keon Coleman, he started the year slow, came on, suffers a wrist injury against Miami, and then kind of disappears down the stretch. And, despite things like that, you still had Khalil Shakir stepping up. And you had guys in roles where Curtis Samuel was injured for a good chunk of the beginning of the year with turf toe, but he came on the last 3-4 games in terms of contributing, making some plays. So Josh Allen wins MVP. The passing attack looks great. They definitely didn't address it in terms of flashiness, in terms of free agency in the draft. But, Caden Prather has a shot of claiming that last roster spot. He was Buffalo's final pick in the draft. I wouldn't be shocked, though, if he's on the practice squad this year, getting some work and some reps there. But they like Joshua Palmer a lot. And I should probably say love Joshua Palmer a lot.
Yeah.
Brandon Beane's already been asked about him in some interviews with media members, and he said, at the end of this upcoming season, the player we're going to be talking about the most is Joshua Palmer and how he's unlocking things for Josh Allen. And you look at the skill set, the separation ability, that's something the Bills lack in their wide receiver room, naturally creating that separation. It's something he does extremely well. But at the same time, if you are just a football fan, you're sitting back saying, well, why didn't he ever emerge then with the Chargers? I know there was some talent there, some great depth in front of him, but if you're that good and you have a good quarterback and Justin Herbert there, why didn't he ever really break out and stay that way? I know when some injuries came up, he did step up and play decently, but it's going to be interesting to see how he fits. Recent free agent addition, Elijah Moore, he was the talk of this voluntary training camp that they were just holding, this offseason program. Now, not in pads. Speed's part of his game, so you think that works in his advantage, and you want to temper expectations. But he is coming off of 2 years in Cleveland where there was no good quarterback play, and yet he put up 1 year career numbers in terms of receptions and the other year career numbers in terms of yards. So now put him with Josh Allen, give him a shot here. Maybe he ends up being a lotto ticket that really pays off for this team.
Yeah. Running back James Cook wants a new deal. Is there any chance he'll get one prior to this season, or is he going to have to play out his final year here and then see what happens after the year?
I think the latter of those two scenarios is much more likely, because it doesn't seem like he's willing to come off of that number, that $15 million.
Running backs, it's so hard to get paid as running backs too. It's always a struggle.
It is, and what's working against him is, one, he's not a 3-down back. He has never been that guy. The Bills love their rotation at running back, so it's hard to justify paying $15 million for someone you're going to use 40-45% of the time, versus some of these bell cow backs, and seeing how, what the Derrick Henrys do, what a Christian McCaffrey when healthy can do. Guys like that Saquon Barkley, obviously, guys like that, that's a little bit easier to digest. And James Cook is coming off of a phenomenal year, but 16 touchdowns on the ground, 2 as a receiver, 18 total. He didn't come close to that his first few years in this league. He was barely, I think, 2 touchdowns on the ground, maybe his first 2 years each year. Off the top of my head, I could be wrong on that, but he didn't score the volume that he had this past season. And the Bills love Ray Davis. They love Ty Johnson. I think that they're more than okay going into this season saying he can't really hold out very long. He's going to make about $5 million, and with fines and everything else, that money is going to add up quickly, and he's going to have to come in and play. And I think at the end of the day, he's going to show up no matter what when you get to training camp and all of that. But the Bills are fine running this out this season with that trifecta. And if he doesn't come off of that number, well, best of luck to you in free agency. We can go get a guy in round 2 of the draft, late in round 1, depending on where they're picking, if there's someone they feel is worth it there, and kind of repeating that cycle. No knock on running backs, but unless you have one of those cream of the crop guys, it's so easy to say, okay, let's get him in here for 4 or 5 years, and then let's just keep repeating that cycle.
It's 100% true. And I know for them it's unfortunate, because it's like, why us, why our position? Yeah. But it's just where the game has gone. In the 1970s and 1980s, teams were built around the back, and they got all the work, and they were like the main point of the offense for most teams. Nowadays, fast forward to the 2020s and stuff, running backs are, it's just it's a spot. It's like a middle linebacker almost. You don't need middle linebackers. You're always in dime. You're always in nickel. I need guys who can run. I don't need a thumper. Not going to pay for a thumper linebacker. Same thing at running back. It's unfortunate, and he's very good. Very good. But, yeah, I totally get it there. I was looking at the Bills' schedule. I really hadn't looked at it since it came out. Mm-hmm. God damn, they got maybe the best schedule in NFL history. I mean, and if fans haven't looked at that, especially fans of the Dolphins, all I'm going to say is this. 4 of their first 5 games are at home. How they got 4 of the first 5 at home, I don't know. Their 3 toughest opponents, and I know the opponents are the opponents. They got no say in that. They got the Ravens, the Chiefs, and the Philadelphia Eagles all at home. They got all 3 of them in their building. And looking at the schedule, their only tough road game is Houston. Because the other road games, not counting the Jets and the Patriots, Dolphins, we know, Atlanta, Carolina, Pittsburgh, who doesn't have a quarterback, right. Cleveland. I mean, this is a 14-15 win team. If they don't get hurt, and I know fans are going to hate me for saying it, if they don't get hurt between the Ravens, Chiefs, and Philadelphia all in their building, if they go 2-1 in those games, I don't see how they win less than 14 games.
Yeah, and unless it's maybe something where at the end of the season they don't need to play in that season finale. I
True.
think,
Okay.
12-13, there's always one of those weird letdown games that
Yeah.
every team has. I think 12-13, though, I'm very comfortable with. And, you mentioned the schedule. If I were a betting man, I would have lost some money this offseason because looking at that road schedule, I thought for sure they were going to peg the Bills as one of those international games as the road teams because they were eligible for 4 games. Cleveland's
Yeah.
going to be a home team on the road or internationally, and I thought, okay, Bills could play in that one. And, not Jacksonville, Miami and Madrid. You talk about Pittsburgh and in Dublin. There were 4 total options for this team. And they said, okay, well, we're not going to send the MVP in this team over. 9:30 a.m. games are not blockbusters for ratings. But I thought maybe growing the game, you'd want to bring them over, especially with the lack of travel on that schedule. Houston is not a heavy lift in terms of a
No,
flight.
they're not a great team.
And
I mean,
yeah,
they're
and in terms
good.
of the game itself, they did beat the Bills last season. The Bills struggled with that deep passing game, some big plays there. But at the same time, I don't know if Houston did enough to address their own line. I think the Bills might be able to exploit that a little bit this year with all the additions that they've made there. But the travel schedule is very favorable for Buffalo, that's for sure.
At Cleveland, at Atlanta, at Carolina. You even get Cincinnati and Tampa Bay at home, which those are not great teams, but okay, they might put up a fight. They're coming to
Oh,
your
yeah.
building too. And then what's really, real talk. Week 1, home Ravens, tough game. Week 9, home Chiefs, tough game. Between 1 and 9, Jets, Miami, Saints, New England, Atlanta, Carolina with a bye week. Even if they lose the first game, they're probably going to be 7-1 going in to play Kansas City. That is one of the best. If they don't break through this year, Ryan, that's all I'm going to say. The stars are lined up for them. They really are.
I agree. This is the year
a lot of starters
where,
coming back. A lot of starters coming back. Same system. Schedule is set up perfectly.
Yep. Yeah, your coordinators are all coming back. Obviously, there was some talk about Joe Brady potentially going somewhere during this coaching cycle. I think more realistically at the end of this year, that could definitely happen. But you have both of your coordinators back. You made a significant upgrade in your special teams coordinator, adding Chris Tabor to this roster. Great coordinator. A few years ago, I know he took last year off. He was voted by the players as the second best special teams coordinator in this league, so he's well liked by his players. The units always fare very well. Ryan Nielsen is this coach that I'm very high on in terms of the work that he's done with defensive linemen in his career, and that's where the Bills have kind of had him focusing early on. So now you bring him in here, and he was credited with Trey Hendrickson's breakout year, that final year in New Orleans before he moved on to Cincy. So you hope that he can bring out the best in Landon Jackson, and still a young player in Greg Rousseau, despite him being in the league for multiple seasons now. What can he do with Hoyt when he comes off the suspension? That list goes on. Pellegrino from New England. The Bills pretty much swapped their nickel cornerbacks coaches between Buffalo and Miami. I feel like they came out on the winning end. Pellegrino has a very good track record with his cornerback development and how well he's liked there too. So even the coaching, I feel like, has taken that next step. A lot of the starters returning. They've added some good depth. Claiming that 1 seed this year is huge for them if they can do it. Get that bye week. Try to let the playoffs run through Orchard Park. I know, they've had some opportunities with the Chiefs 2 years ago at home and it didn't work out, but if they can get that again this year, I would like their odds in terms of whoever it is that comes in from the AFC.
And I think what's in their advantage is the AFC East, sorry, Dolphins fans, is a mess. New England's improved. Miami's a little bit of a mess, so are the Jets. AFC West is a dogfight with Sean Payton. You got Jim Harbaugh, and Kansas City's got to go through. They're going to have some fights in the West where the Bills, much like last year where they had the thing clinched like the first week of November, might be the same case with the AFC East. And then they can just sort of focus on not, slipping up against a team like Cleveland late or whatever, So I think that is going to play in their favor to maybe get that 1 seed. Because, again, I still think the AFC is still Bills in no special order. Bills, Chiefs, Ravens, and then there's a drop-off to get to your Cincinnatis and your Houstons and that next level. I think those 3 teams are still the class of the AFC. And I don't know if anything's going to change it outside of injuries per se to the
Right.
quarterbacks. Nothing's really going to change that with those three teams, and everyone else is just sort of fighting over the rest. But yeah, so there's that. Let's talk a little bit about the AFC East, though. Let's start with most of the people listening to this, our Miami Dolphins, who going through a bit of a transition. They won't admit it's a rebuilding year. Spoiler alert, it's a rebuilding year. They have a lot of veterans walk, like Holland, Calais Campbell. They're about to trade Ramsey. Maybe by the time some of you are listening to this, they have trade Ramsey. They are about to trade, it sounds like, Jonnu Smith. A lot of guys gone, and they're putting a lot of faith in the youth and their picks that they took in this draft to replace those guys. What are your thoughts as an outsider on the Dolphins?
I think a step back is certainly realistic this year. And, I'm not willing to guarantee it, because as much as I like what the Patriots have done this offseason, some of the young talent that they have, we've seen that a lot in this league, where there's a lot of young talent, but they don't necessarily take the leap that you're expecting from year 1 to year 2 or whatever it is in that progression. So I could see New England, though, really fighting for second place in this division. I still have a lot of question marks about the Jets, especially the quarterback play there. I'm not a believer in Justin Fields at this point in his career. There was a time I thought he could have been a decent quarterback, but the development hasn't helped him at all. So as much as I like the hire there of Aaron Glenn and some of the talent that they have, I still think it's down to Miami and New England for that second place in the division. And if New England doesn't take that step, Miami can still, one, claim second place in this division, and two, try to compete for that wild card spot. But you need Tua to stay healthy, and you also need them to show up late in the season. It's these late season stretches where they don't seem prepared for, you don't call it playoff football, but it's kind of like the warm-up games for playoff football. It's where teams are getting ready for those battles that they know are coming. And whether it's cold weather, whatever it is, Miami seems to fall off late in the season. And you have to wonder a little bit if it is getting close to a regime change there. I love Mike McDaniel, great, brilliant offensive mind. I've questioned some of the motivational tactics. And is he more of this guy that's maybe going to be a guru coordinator for the rest of his career that is one of the best of the business? But he hasn't necessarily taken that next step as a head coach.
Yeah, 100%. There's a lot of questions about him. And I would say between him and the general manager, the head coach is more on the hot seat. The general manager has been here with the team for over 20 years. He's been the general manager since 2016, I think. He's had total power since 2019. And no matter how bad it gets, he's here. The owner loves the general manager. He's, we joke, but it's kind of serious. He's got a job for life as long as he wants it. And so I think the head coach, yes, he might be a little bit on the hot seat, but the general manager, because again, after last season, they missed the playoffs. Mm-hmm. They, fell short of all of their expectations. Everyone would assume they're on the hot seat. Every move they've made this offseason, including what we just came out about 5 minutes prior to us recording about Jonnu Smith being traded. Ramsey, he will soon be traded. They let Campbell walk. They let Holland walk. They lost all 4 starters in their secondary, and they really haven't signed anyone starter worthy to replace them. None of their actions are like that we're on the hot seat. So I really don't know if they're on the hot seat, because actions speak louder than words, and they are on a youth kick, a youth movement. They could have restructured deals with the quarterback, Zach Sealer, open up $20 million with the quarterback alone, another $5 or $6 million with Sealer. Simple restructures that you see every day in the NFL. They did none of it. They're like, no, we're good. We don't need the extra cap space. We don't need to go sign anyone. We're going to go and take guys in the draft, and we're going to put them out there. So I don't know who's on the hot seat, because none of their actions speak to it. But if one of the two, the head coach is, not the general manager, that's clear.
Yeah, if it does come down to that, I agree completely. And I looked, and Miami has 5 primetime games. That's a tough
5
spot.
and 6 if you count the Washington one at 9:30 in the morning. It's really 6 standalone games.
And that, national eyes on you. If they do take a step back this year, that adds some pressure. Owners might not ever admit to that, but if you're losing these national primetime games, it's a bad reflection sometimes, and sometimes that does lead to rash decisions or decisions after some of these big time games. So it'll be interesting to see. And, I will say this, I on paper, once they trade Ramsey, that cornerback group is arguably the worst in the league.
Oh, it's awful. It's awful.
But last year, to give Dolphins fans a little glimmer of hope, a lot of media members were saying that about the Bills wide receiver room. It's an awful room on paper. They lost Diggs. They're going to take the step back. And you saw how they grew throughout the season. They got better and better. Even when they added Cooper at the trade deadline, and he was a bust. He did not help it whatsoever. So even adding a big name like that, it was the no-name guys or the guys that were coming in that, Matt Collins had 1 year in with the Raiders, where beyond that, he was just more of this depth guy, but he became beloved by this team and this fan base. You never know. So as bad as it does look at that cornerback room, maybe they are going to take a big step with this youth movement, getting more reps. You never know until you throw them out there on the field.
Yeah, we'll see. Now the Patriots, I agree with what you said. I think the Patriots, looking at their team, one side of the ball, they are loaded on defense. I think they're going to have a hell of a defense. They've made a lot of smart signings in the offseason and the draft. They added some guys who, on paper look like there's something there. The offense still needs some work, I think. Matt Collins, they signed. They also signed your old buddy Stephon Diggs out there. So he's in the headlines this week for stuff that doesn't seem too good.
All the wrong reasons.
All the wrong reasons, yeah. The offense, to me, still leaves a little bit to be desired, but I think they got a smart head coach now, someone who knows how to win in this league. And, I think they're going to be better. How good, I don't know, though.
No, and that's fair. You just never know. I feel like they did a good job addressing their O-line a little bit. If Vrabel coaches the way I anticipate, just like he did when he was in Tennessee, they're going to lean a little bit on this run game. Stevenson still has some juice left, in my opinion, but I love that Henderson addition that they made in the draft. So that 1-2 punch there. Make life easier on your young quarterback that showed signs last year of being a franchise QB. I think May has all the intangibles. He flashed a lot at times last season. So you take a little bit off of his plate, you lean on that strong defense in the run game, and then you're not asking him to come out and play Superman yet in year 2. Year 3 is a whole nother matter. Who knows, though, when Diggs is going to be healthy enough to play or contribute at a high level. Matt Collins, what he brings to the table. It's nothing overly flashy, but he's going to be a great run blocker for the run game. He's going to get open at times when you need him there. It's an intriguing enough unit where I can see them pushing 9-10 wins if everything goes right.
I agree. I think they're in that 8 to 10 win range. If something goes right, they're at 10. If something goes wrong, probably at 8. I think they're that type of team this year, and they're probably going to surprise a lot of people. Let's close it out with the Jets. Everyone likes to laugh at the Jets. Here's what I'll say. There's 2 positives about the Jets. One, I think their head coach will be good. I think they're going to play hard for him. Let me say it that way. I don't know if he'll be good. I think at least year 1, they're going to play hard for Aaron Glenn. I just think he's going to have – it's like a whole new – thing for them, new voice in the room, no Rodgers. I think they'll all be on the same page and they'll play hard for Aaron Glenn. I like that. Number 2, I like their offensive line. They have heavily invested in their offensive line. They got a damn good offensive line. Now, after that, that's where things fall off the cliff a little bit. Quarterback with Fields, I'm with you. Okay, at best. Wide receivers after Wilson, not much there. Running backs, Hall had a horrible year last year. There's talks they're even trying to trade him around the draft maybe. So, look, if they can run the ball some with him at quarterback and if he can make plays with his legs and if they play hard all 4 quarters, I think they'll be one of those pesky, annoying teams that might only win 5 or 6 games, but they lose every other game by like 3 points or less. Yeah. That's how I see the Jets in 2025.
No, and I don't hate that comparison. I could see the same thing in the AFC West with the Raiders now with Pete Carroll and being a pesky team, not a team that's going to do much this season, but can be a thorn in the side, can steal a few wins, can maybe take away when you're talking about the Bills, maybe knock them off at some point and knock them out of that 1 seed or be that game that cost the Bills the 1 seed. It will be intriguing because I love the defense. I love Aaron Glenn in terms of coaching up this defense. There's some talent there for sure. The O-line investment. Fields, though, it's up and down. It's a roller coaster ride. Some games he looked great in his career. Other games, not so much. Watching him at times too, Small sample size, but last year the Bills in Pittsburgh with the training camp or the practice together and then the preseason game, they were able to read what he was going to do in that game. I mean, it was pretty obvious when he's going to run, when he's not going to run. They have to get a little bit more creative with that. But, if they end up having a terrible season, Glenn's safe. I know no coach is ever safe after 1 year, but I think
Glenn but 5 or
safe.
6 wins, I think he'll be okay for a year.
But even if it's 3 or 4 and they're in the mix for that,
it's
one
probably
seed,
the best thing for him.
Or that
probably the
one
best
overall pick, I should say.
Probably the best thing for him.
Then you go and you get that quarterback, and then Glenn coaches up the defense. You have that franchise QB. You still have Garrett Wilson, and you can add weapons around. So I can see the vision. Maybe this year's not so strong, but they're not far off if they can add that quarterback piece, which easier said than done. We've seen a lot of QBs go very high in drafts and not pan out. It's never a guarantee, but I could see them being in the mix for that number 1 overall pick or one of the first quarterbacks in this draft class.
Here's what I'm thinking, and I've had this thought, but I will share it with you. And this is evil. I know it's evil. If you go back to late 90s, Peyton Manning as a junior, there was talks he'd come out in the draft. Jets had the number 1 pick, and he ain't going to go play for the Jets. He went back to Tennessee for his senior year because he didn't want to play for the Jets. Jets get the top pick. Arch Manning goes, yeah, I'm going back to Texas. I'm not going to the Jets. The Manning screw over the Jets again would be so funny on so many levels. I love it.
Yeah, the whole deja vu factor of it would be very fun to watch and cover. The fan base, I think, would definitely melt down if
oh my god!
Oh my god! Yeah, but it's not unrealistic. That's for sure.
No, because I think look at the Mannings. Peyton did that. Eli told the Chargers, "I'm never playing for you. You can pick me," and he never played for him. He forced a trade that night to the Giants. Arch Manning, he ain't gonna go to a team with a crummy owner, with a crummy infrastructure. He will come out and go, and if it's a team picking first, you can pick me. I ain't playing for you. Those Mannings they're a tough bunch.
Yeah,
they are a tough bunch, and he's gonna pick his spot within reason, obviously. But yeah, if it seemed like the Raiders picking first, Tom Brady, sure, I'll go to the Raiders. If it's another team, Jets, I don't know. I'm not gonna go play for Woody Johnson. I don't know. You guys got a history. It's not so good.
It would also be cool to see Brady and a Manning working together in this league.
That would be
cool.
So
that'd be pretty fascinating.
Cool. Yeah, that would be funny. Ryan, thanks so much for a few moments of your time. Be sure to read Ryan's work at Syracuse.com and NewYorkUpstate.com. Check him out on the Shout, a Buffalo Bills podcast, and follow him on social media at Ryan Talbot Bills. Ryan, thanks so much, and I'm sure we'll talk to you again down the road.
Sounds great.
Hey, everyone. Mike here from DolphinsTalk.com. Real quick, I just want to give a thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to our channel. Also, just want to say thank you for all the support you provide us here at DolphinsTalk.com and have over the many years. We thank you, thank you, thank you. It's much appreciated. Without you, there would be no us. I know there are so many other podcast options out there these days, whether it's true crime, the NBA, Major League Baseball, news, politics, and of course, other Miami Dolphins podcasts as well. We really do appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day, each and every day, to watch our stuff here at DolphinsTalk.com. Also, if you like this show and want more content from us, please be sure to sign up for Dolphins Talk Extra. Go to patreon.com/DolphinsTalk. We have a private message board where you can interact with only extra members and ourselves here, the staff at the website. We have extra podcasts about the Dolphins and also extra podcasts not about the Miami Dolphins. And we give away a ton of prizes. We have a ton of contests that are exclusive to Dolphins Talk Extra members. We give away autographs, memorabilia, jerseys, hats, all that fun stuff. So everyone, please be sure to go to patreon.com/DolphinsTalk. It's $3 a month. It's really cheap. You'll have a lot of fun. Trust me. But once again, thank you so much. Everyone have a great day.